All right. Welcome, everyone, to our Concern Talk for today. My name is Britney Bryson. I am one of the counselors in the Concern EAP office, and we love to bring these sessions to you to talk more about, my camera wasn't even on, to make sure we are engaging in other ways to talk about mental health in our community aside just services in our offices. So for today, our focus is embracing healthy relationships. We'll cover different areas, and it'll be kind of like a quick session. Our concern talks are normally 15 minutes, so we'll fly through these things. But again, of course, if you have any questions, comment, concerns, please feel free to throw them in the chat or unmute yourself if you're feeling good about it, and we'll be able to discuss then. So for today's focus, we'll define what a healthy relationship is, explore why relationships are important, and examine how to maintain them. So first of all, what is a relationship? Just in general, if we could put some terms to it. So a relationship can be a strong or deep, close association, acquaintance, or bond between two people that range from duration and for enduring to how long the relationship is and to what the relationship is like. It can be associated with inference, love, solidarities, or maybe even just a regular business interaction, or any type of social commitment. So this can range from the connection we have to parents, to the relationship you have with your favorite barista at your local coffee shop. A relationship is any space occupied between two people and what that space means to those two people. And that can vary, of course, upon interaction, upon a person's past, but it can mean a lot of things, but they are absolutely important to us as people. Now, upon that, a variation can also mean what type of relationship it is. Now, sometimes the relationships we have are very healthy. Sometimes they are maybe unhealthy. Even they can be abusive. So sometimes we do need to evaluate our relationships to make sure they are things that are actually benefiting us and helping us in different ways. So, of course, everyone strives to have that healthy relationship between you and a partner, any person that's present in your life, where there is communication, respect, trust, honesty, equality, enjoying personal time with each other, making similar choices, and having economic and financial choices. Of course, we're talking about with a partner as well. Of course, we also look at things that could be unhealthy in relationships, where there's a lack of communication, there's not respect being present, there's no trust present, there's dishonesty, control is present there, not only spending time together, having pressure to do activities, and sort of this unequal economic setup. And then, of course, the last one is being the abusive pieces of our relationships, where communication is hurtful, there's mistreatment or accusations, their actions are abusive in some way, there's a lot of controlling and isolating from others. So again, this, of course, speaks in terms of partnership. But again, this could be in terms of our families, this could be in terms of friendships, even, and being mindful of how these pieces show up in our relationships, in our partners, or in the people around us, and perhaps even in ourselves. So as we get the idea of how to maintain relationships, thinking of too, if any of these aspects are present with unhealthy or abusive relationships, are there things that can be done to help remedy it? Or is this a relationship perhaps we take a pause on or come back to? But just being mindful of the types of relationships that there are around us and what is available to us in our immediate environment, because it does have a strong impact on who we are and how we live our lives. So good relationships help us live longer, happier, healthier lives with fewer physical and mental health problems. They really do make an impact on our day-to-day lives, perhaps how we even see ourselves, how we feel about the world around us, how we feel about our own futures, even depending on the type of people that we are around, associating ourselves with, and being and giving our time and energy to. We do have to be very mindful if these are interactions that are helping us and encouraging us to live happier, healthier lives, or is it doing the opposite? Are the folks in our lives very draining? Are they taking away things for us and not replenishing things for us? Is it reciprocal when it comes to the relationships we have? Is there a give and a take, or do you find yourself constantly giving and then running out at the end? So being mindful of that, because as important as they are, we want to also look at why they're important. Well, it's a human need, right? We need to feel love and feel acceptance. And actually, that need for belonging is so strong in some of us that could override our need for physiological and physical safety. So for example, we take going back to the abusive relationships, those do sometimes occur because our need to belong and be with someone is so strong, it overrides all those safety needs that we sometimes have as humans. We look at children who are from abusive parents or abusive homes, they still connect and very much want to bond with their parent because that sense of belonging is so strong. We look at folks who are still involved in abusive relationships. No matter what other people think or say, that person still has that need to belong and be with someone else. And again, sometimes that need for belonging overrides that need for physiological or physical safety because our need for love and acceptance is so important to us. As humans and as we grow and develop. So we want to make sure that we know that relationships are important, not just because they feel good, because it is a part of our human function and what we need to survive. Now, maintaining those relationships does get tricky. So we get to a place where we have a good time in relationships, but then we run into a little thing about conflict. And then we run out of ways of, well, how do I fix it? How do I address it? What do I do? Does conflict mean the relationship is bad? Is the conflict abusive? And no, that's not the case at all. A conflict doesn't mean something has to come to an end, nor does a conflict mean everything is bad. It simply means it goes into a conversation, an understanding of what is more helpful for the relationship and how to continue it in a healthy way. It's very natural to have conflict and discourse as long as it's able to be addressed and recovered healthily. And this is also where we step in with interpersonal effectiveness. So the goal of interpersonal effectiveness is to strengthen the current relationship despite what conflict can be present. So brand new relationships can be wonderful. And sometimes relationships end that are untoxic and healthy. But the way to navigate them or get through them can contain three different areas that we'll go over in depth when it comes to how to manage those relationships and manage the conflict that happens within them. The first thing we want to do when it comes to maintaining our relationships and understanding them is to maintain communication. Now, also forewarning, I'm about to acronym you to pieces. So keeping that in mind as we go through these next few slides. So our first goal when we talk about maintaining our relationships is maintaining communication. The first thing we want to do is get and keep a good relationship by communicating with the acronym Dear Man. So on the screen, you'll see DEARMAN, and this represents several different statements. So with Dear Man, we want to sit with the idea of being able to talk to someone. How do I express myself? How do I open up? How do I discuss and talk about what's going on with me in my relationship to a person that I'm needing to communicate with? Well, we look to Dear Man for that. We describe the situation. We express our feelings and opinions about the situation. We assert ourselves by asking for what you need and what I want, or saying no if needed very clearly. We reinforce or reward the person ahead of time, so explaining any consequences or what will happen if these things, if my boundaries that I'm setting aren't respected. We're mindful to keep your focus on what is happening at the task, so not getting distracted. We're appearing confident, maintaining good eye contact and not stammering if we're talking or having jumbled words. And we are negotiating. So sometimes even in conversations, we do have to be prepared to compromise, being willing to give in order to get. So again, but this is a reciprocal thing. It's not that you will be giving everything away, you will be getting something in return. So maintaining relationships, first thing to think about is maintaining communication. So how do I keep that flow, that back and forth with me and another person? The next thing we look at is maintaining connection. So I have this conversation, right? We started with maintain communication. Now, how do I maintain that bond between me and someone else? Well, this is where we look at give, how to get and keep a good relationship. We think about giving. We think about being gentle, being interested, validating someone else, and having an easy manner. So we look at being courteous. So being temperate to approach, no attacking, no judgments, no threats, being a safe space essentially for someone else. So being a place they can come to and talk, even if there's an issue or there's a conflict, they know they can be able to come to you for any concerns. In addition to that, we want to be interested. We want to be able to be a good listener and be able to absorb and be a space for someone. If they just need an ear, we can be there for that person and engage with them. We can validate their feelings, their wants, difficulties, and needs. And now, don't get me wrong, validation doesn't necessarily mean you agree with everything they're saying or that you are encouraging them in any way. Validating is just simply seeing them from where they are and saying, you know what, I hear you and I get where you're coming from. I understand that. That's it. We're not saying, yes, go do. We're not giving permission. We're simply validating where they are and giving them permission to be where they are. And lastly, we having an easy manner. So perhaps a little humor, smile, being diplomatic, and having a soft shell over a hard shell. So being more of a soft space for someone, kind of going back to being generous with your space and with your time, but also easy manner translates to me being able to make generous assumptions too. So sometimes people will do or say things that may hurt our feelings, but we don't really know the full story. For example, if you give somebody a phone call, or if somebody forgets to call you on your birthday, the generous assumption is, you know what, maybe they're really busy. Maybe something is going on in their world and they just weren't able to reach out, or, maybe they just couldn't answer the phone because they were driving. Who knows? But making those generous assumptions so that our automatic response isn't always, oh, they don't like me, they did this to me again, and making it about a personal pain instead of what that person could be going through. So having an easy manner, making generous assumptions to maintain those connections we want to maintain. So we started off with maintaining relationships and maintaining communication. We want to maintain connection. And lastly, and also very importantly, we want to maintain ourselves in our relationships. So maintaining yourself is a big and important part of your relationship. It's not always about the other person. It is absolutely about you too. So when you think about maintaining yourself, we think of fast, being fair, not apologetic, sticking to your own values, and being truthful. So I'm going to explain a couple because I don't want it to begin very confusing. So being fair to yourself first and to the other person. So we want to make sure we're being fair to ourselves. And this can mean a lot of things when it comes to our relationships and our communication and connection. Being fair to yourself means taking care of yourself, utilizing that self-care, being mindful of the things that you need for you before you can take care of someone else. And if you want to help others, that's totally fine. But being able to maintain that balance in a wise manner. No apologetic dramatization. So no apologizing for being alive or making a request. You don't have to apologize for your existence. You are valuable and meaningful no matter who or where you are, and you don't not have to make apologies for it. Perhaps this is a thing for the South, but I know a lot of times when we're just walking around, we just, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We automatically just say those words if we ever think we're an inconvenience or in the way of someone else, when sometimes, in fact, we're not. Your existence is not something to be apologized for. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, if there was a wrong act committed or there's something to be held accountable for, sure, apology needed and necessary. But if not, if there's nothing you need to be guilty for or nothing you did, no apology is necessary. Hold yourself into that worthy regard that you are able to seek help, you are able to change your mind, and you have rights yourself too, just as much as everyone else. And hold yourself to those boundaries and those values. Sticking to those values, being clear on what you believe in and what you think is right and what you think is good for you in your life. It is okay to hold on to those. Those are pivotal in helping us maintain our relationships because they help us guide us to relationships we actually want to maintain. We bond with like-minded folks because we're open and honest about what's important to us. And lastly, being truthful. We are not to lie or act helpless or exaggerate. We are appropriately figuring out what is needed for ourselves and for our benefit, and we're able to communicate that with others. So we're maintaining our communication, our connection, and our self as we maintain our relationships. Those three different layers when it comes to how to maintain our relationships. Again, not just with our partners, with family, friends, kids, your barista, co-workers, everyone around you. All three of these things have to be juggled at once to make sure all parts of your relationship are addressed appropriately. Now, again, I know this said this is a quick session, so we are out of time for today, but just for a takeaway, keeping in mind, a healthy relationship, whether it's romantic, brotherly, or friendly, is when each person is allowed to grow, is allowed room to grow, unjudged, and still loved. So I hope you keep that in mind for yourself, that you are in relationships and maintaining relationships where you feel like you are still growing and you are unjudged and still loved for exactly who you are and for exactly where you are. If you have any other questions for us, please give us an email at concern@bmhcc.org or reach out to us at 901-458-4000. Of course, if you don't know about or haven't accessed the AP sessions before, please do so. No issue is too big or too small. We are always confidential, always free. So I've got a question here. The PowerPoint will be sent, but no, the video will be posted though. So you will still have access to this information through the video, and we'll post that to our YouTube page for later, okay? Other questions, comments, concerns? No, thank you, Nicole. Thank you. I hope you all got a little tidbit from us today. If you have anything else, feel free to please reach out to us later, and we will be happy to connect with you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. I can hang out for a second in case someone does have a question they don't want to answer out loud in front of everyone. I'll turn the recording off if needed. But if not, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you then.